This is AgGrad Live,
We have all of the different segments within the cotton.
the show that explores what it's really like to work in the ag industry,
So making sure that we get policy and regulatory issues
straight from the people who live it every day.
Okay, this is AgGrad Live. We are talking today work-life balance. We have on the show somebody who is so busy, I can't believe that she gets it all done. And she's going to share this important topic that people always have questions about, which is, what is work-life balance? How does it really exist in the real world? What's it look like? We have on the show Nicole Stecklein, who's a technical agronomist for Monsanto, Dekalb, Asgrow brands in Northeast Iowa. So, Nicole, welcome to AgGrad Live.
Hey, I just want to point out the first thing about work-life balance is that it looks different for everybody. I'm a career person. I love my job and I love ag and I love farming. So for me, it's easy to integrate my kids and all that kind of stuff into my job and my passion. So just going to point that out for everybody. It looks different.
Good deal. Well, I know you're up in Northeast Iowa, and I think our internet connection is going in and out, but you're coming through loud and clear, Nicole. Thank you for being on the show. Maybe just tell us, I know it looks different for everybody. I think that's an important point. I had to adjust my work-life balance when I went from my old job where I commuted 22 miles each way and really had a lot going on at the facility to what I do now, which is like working from home, and it's a whole nother set of challenges for you. What does it look like in your job as a technical agronomist?
I actually kind of want to start a little earlier in my career because what work-life balance has been with different jobs is all over the place. So when I started my career, I was in ag retail sales. So that's just looking, being the person who's boots on the ground, making the sales and delivering the product to the farmers, whether it's seed, fertilizer, or chemicals. That is a very labor-intensive job, especially, just in agriculture as a whole, is that it's very seasonal. So I was doing that before I had kids, and then when we had number one and when we got pregnant with number two, I was doing that. During the spring, it was really hard. My husband farms, so he was planting corn, putting on ammonia. I was delivering ammonia and delivering seed. And my mother-in-law would pick up our son from daycare, and I would maybe see him at 8:30, 9 o'clock. So that was really, really difficult. And it was something that I think brings into focus the difference between a man and a woman. Not going to beat around the bush. There's a difference between a man and a woman. As much as we want equality and we deserve equality, equality doesn't mean the same, in my opinion. So the woman, the mom, is usually almost always going to be the main caretaker of the family and the household. And it was a decision that my husband and I made together, also along the line where, I wanted to advance my career, where we decided it was time for me to get out of ag retail because we were going to have another kid. I was pulling tanks the day before my water broke with number two.
Oh, wow.
So things get pretty dicey in there. And the only reason it didn't happen while I was hooked up a tank was because it was Easter, so we got the day off.
Yeah. I think too with agriculture and even in other careers too, what a lot of people don't realize is they think work-life balance has to mean, okay, I'm working for 8 hours, I'm sleeping for 8 hours, and I'm spending 8 hours doing other things. When in reality, it just can't work that way, right? There's going to be seasons where you have to pull tanks. There's going to be seasons where your husband, farming full-time has to farm. And even for me in recruiting, there is hardcore recruiting seasons and other seasons where maybe you can get more of that quality time. Is that what you found, and how do you handle that?
Yes, with it being seasonal, and then also a lot of times when you get to the point where you graduated college and you're in a career, some of your jobs might start out hourly, but when you get to salary positions where you're getting the same paycheck every week, and then particularly when you're in a seasonal job, you're going to bust the highway, you're going to pound the pavement when you need to. But in your off season, you're going to make sure that it balances out and spend more time with the kids and with the family. And I think also that in agriculture, we're really lucky that it's also very family centric and family centered. So, Sometimes I'll take my kids with me if I'm going to go look at plots. You know, they were so happy that they could come and put signs up in a plot with mom this summer. They thought it was so cool. So they're giving me posts and stuff like that. So there's a certain aspect of it where in certain things that you're doing, it is acceptable to bring your kids along to do that kind of stuff. You know, I've had multiple, in part of my role, I'll go to plot days that dealers are putting on and talk about products. And I've gotten multiple invitations, especially for the evening functions where they're doing a steak dinner. Like, bring your husband, bring the kids up. You know, they want to know you. They want to know your family. So things like that, where when we get to plot season and, you know, I'm 2 hours away and they're starting the plot at 6 and I know I'm not going to get home until 9 or 10, they invite me to bring my family with me. So the fact that we are in agriculture helps a lot.
Absolutely.
We need that to make up for the fact that during the busy season, we don't get to see our kids very often. And as far as another thing that's really good with it being family centric is that it truly takes a village to raise the kids. And the fact that my husband's farming and we're, you know, within miles of all of his family, when I was in retail, we wouldn't have been able to make it with kids without his family and whatever help that they came for when I was working weekends, when he was working weekends, and for when we had late hours. So that was, you got to have backup plans and you got to have people to lean on.
Hey, all right. Before I leave the work-life balance topic, if you could give just one piece of general advice for people when it comes to feeling like they're achieving work-life balance, what would that be?
Don't think you're doing a bad job. There's a lot of pressure on parents right now to, your kids can do well without you being 100% of the time there. They need to be able to build relationships with other people besides their parents, and they need to feel secure even if you're not around. Make sure that they have a network. So don't feel guilty if you are working on yourself and working on your career, because that is important too. The other part would be, not everything's going to be perfect right away. And I know that when kids are young, that's when you really want to put in a lot of time and a lot of hours with your kids. And that's usually when you're trying to advance your career. Be willing to say no. Career is important. You know, make sure that you aren't feeling guilty about not being home with your kids, but also don't feel guilty for not being at work. And that's the great thing about agriculture is that almost every team that I've been involved with in work is that it is family is important and family comes first.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, that's a great culture to work in. And I think one thing that's great about agriculture, we've had people in ag retail on the show before, and I know that's where you started. Tell us about the difference in being a technical agronomist. It sounds really technical. I mean, the technical's in the word, right? So what is it really like? You know, what's that look like on a day-to-day basis for you?
So obviously it's seasonal. So in my role, what I do is I'll just start during sales season. What we do kind of in the fall and through the winter is we train anybody who sells our product. So anybody who sells Dekalb and Asgrow hybrids and varieties, we train them on what the different hybrids are. Where do they fit well? Where are their strengths and weaknesses? You know, do they have a problem with this disease? Should we not put it in a sandy soil? So just training them on how they can best sell our products and what's going to work best for each farmer and each field. And then when we come into spring, a big part of agronomists in our organization is helping to put plots in, make sure that we get all of the right comparisons in those plots, and then making sure they get put in correctly so that we can get as much good data feeding our system on our hybrid performance as we can come fall. And then the summer is just evaluating plots and evaluating hybrids and where they look good, where they don't look good, you know, making sure that the ratings that the breeders have put on those products fit what we're seeing in the field. And then if there's problems, helping to discover what caused those problems, just being the detective. I know this last spring was really difficult in terms of temperature and moisture for my area. And what we ended up finding was that we were having a lot of pythium and seedling death issues. So everybody wanted to tie it back to a product or a certain hybrid or a field or something like that. And we were actually able to, through diagnostics and just looking at all these different cases, we actually tied it back to a wireworm and an insecticide issue. Where so wireworm is a early season pest that stays in a soil for like 4 to 7 years. It stays as a worm, and so the level of insecticide that was on the seed wasn't high enough to combat that level of wireworms with also the weather that we were having. So by determining that we had a wireworm issue, we're now able to help those growers say, okay, we know that this pest stays in the soil for 4 to 7 years. We're either going to order our seed with a higher seed insecticide level, or we're going to start putting something in furrow to combat this problem as well. So doing a lot of that stuff, helping growers find issues, and just following the season, following our hybrids. And then when it comes to harvest, our main thing is getting plot data in the system and then start running reports to analyze and evaluate our product's performance.
Wow. Okay. That's busy.
And training all of our seed dealers on agronomy itself, fertility products, corn plant development. Yeah, it's a lot of fun rolled into a big tortilla. So
and then you come home to 3 kids and all sorts of fun there as well. I have to ask you about this though. If I'm understanding correctly, you met your husband on a cold call. Is this right?
Yes.
All right, share that story.
Majority of the jobs in agriculture, especially for people first coming out of college, is going to be some sort of sales job. And so when I started, I was working for an FS location. And most cases, when you get into that, you're going to be replacing somebody, or they're going to be like, here's some farmers for you to start working with, build a relationship with them. That was not the case for me. They were like, we want you to develop this area right here. So you make cold calls. And what a cold call is when you just drive down somebody's lane and say like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I want to sell you a bunch of stuff. It's more or less what it comes down to. So, 21-year-old Nicole, I didn't have really a whole lot of experience. I didn't grow up on a crop farm. I drove down the lane on the plat map, it said Nicole Stecklein, and there was my husband and my now father-in-law and my now brother-in-law and their neighbor, and they gave me hell. I didn't know the price of Roundup right off the top of my head, so but it turned out pretty well in the long run.
In multiple fronts.
Yeah, it took years and years and years, even after we were dating, to get all of his business. So it work-life balance, when it came down to that too, was how do you keep a good relationship with somebody where you're also trying to negotiate and hide his prices. And when am I going to get my toolbar? And why aren't you here with my tank yet? He was a tough customer. But it all worked out. While I was still working in retail, actually, they had gotten done putting ammonia on, and they had our biggest toolbar, and we were struggling to get done with a lot of our custom ammonia business. So we were like, hey, you aren't going to plant for another 2 weeks. Do you want to come and help us get done with some of our custom ammonia? They said, sure. So I had brought him a tank and dropped it off, and I, put a chili dog in the tractor for him to eat because he wasn't leaving the field. And I saw him, kneeling behind the toolbar. I was like, oh, crap. What happened? Because he had texted me before that he needed a new shank because he busted a shank. Mm-hmm. But he's back there. He looked really grumpy. And so I was like, okay, what broke? He goes, I dropped an O-ring, just like a little rubber O-ring that goes on the orifice. And he was like, help me find it. I was like, I got a handful of them in the truck. I'll go find him. He goes, no, help me find the one that I dropped. I was like, fine. So I'm looking around on the ground. He goes, no, dig around for it. I was like, if I dig around in the soil, I'm going to cover it up. No, dig around in the soil. So I moved some dirt, and he had taken the ring out of the box. In the dirt behind. So, said yes, hug, kiss. And I was like, okay, I got to go.
I got customers.
So it turned out really well.
That is pretty cool. It's one of those unexpected benefits of the job, I guess, meeting all sorts of different people. Now, you rattle off that jargon when it comes to, custom ammonia and all of it really easily. Now, did you already have a lot of knowledge in this when you went into retail sales, or how did the training onboarding part work for you?
Most kids coming into this probably have a pretty good understanding. I came from a cow-calf operation background. I didn't really get into agronomy. I started dating a larger farmer in the area, and bless their hearts, they allowed me to run some tillage equipment and get a little bit of experience that way. And I took an agronomy class in undergrad, and I really liked it, and I was challenged by it. So I had a really, really steep learning curve. The number one thing that I probably learned was close your mouth and open your ears. And just realize that you aren't going to know a whole lot to begin with. And number one, chemistry, herbicides, hardest part to learn, hands down. It took me working for BASF, a chemical company, and working specifically with chemicals to really wrap my head around herbicide programs, fungicide differences, things like that. So it was a tough learning curve, but I was so glad that I did start in retail because it gave me that practical application of knowledge. And I mean, they had me, I was greasing bearings and, calibrating toolbars and things like that. So getting kind of that baseline practical experience, I think, was really, really key to being able to build a career.
Cool. And what is now, you've gone through the ranks in ag retail and now as a technical agronomist, what would you point to as like, this is the reason I do what I do?
So specifically in my job, I get to be the detective, and I like knowing more than other people. I'll just put that out there.
Don't we all?
I like being an expert, and I like being an educator, and I like helping other people understand problems and learn things. And I'm also very, very passionate about agriculture. It's what our family does. It's what my parents did. It's probably the most important thing that my father instilled in me as we were growing up. And that is why I do what I do, is I like educating and passing on the information that I learn. And that's the best part about it, really. And that's why I do it.
And how long has it been for you since you graduated college, you actually learned all this stuff and got into it to now? How long have you been doing this?
So I graduated from Iowa State with my bachelor's in 2009, and I was in ag retail for 5 years. And while I was doing that, I was also getting my master's online through Iowa State. It was a really good program. So I moved out of ag retail in 2014, and I got my master's in 2016. So It didn't take me 7 years to get my master's because I didn't start until 11 or 12. And I was working at the same time. So it was really a culmination of everything that was happening all at the same time.
That's a master's in agronomy online through Iowa State?
Through Iowa State, yes.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a really great program. I think that there's a lot of other ag programs that are starting to kind of look at that platform, but it was a lot of online discussion, and it really helped to develop my sense of taking a look back and making assessments of what's going on. If that program did anything, it wasn't so much learning agronomy. I mean, it was that, but it was more about being able to assess things and read documents, being able to look at them with a critical eye, and just once again learning how to learn about things and then applying what you've learned.
Very cool. No, I didn't know they did an online agronomy program. That's awesome. I think a lot of people would really benefit from that. We do have a question from the comments here. Andrew Cutter's asking, where do you think technical agronomist is going in the future, i.e., drones, satellites, AI apps, kind of like what do you think might change about this technical agronomy field in the future based on new technologies?
So the technical agronomist portion, it doesn't talk I do more with biology than I do technology,
Mhm.
but
Yep.
all that stuff is coming together more and more. It's becoming integrated. So at Monsanto, we have the climate platform, which is, tracking every field operation that we do. So we're able to make maps based on our planting, and that there's sensors that we can put on the seed firmer that track soil moisture as you're planting. It will track compaction layers, down pressure, organic matter, EC, electrical conductivity of that soil as you're going across the field. So we can map all those things. You're mapping your hybrid, the population that you're putting it in the ground, and then any starter fertilizer that you're putting on, herbicide applications, harvest maps. And then on top of that, we're also getting satellite imagery that is basically telling us where is it good, where is it bad. That's Andrew. I encourage you to get in touch with any climate dealer that you're working with, or anybody who does that kind of stuff, because there's so many interesting things that they're doing at higher level. For instance, something cool that they're doing right now is that satellite imagery that climate can take. So it puts it on a scale, and so you'll see that field in shades of green or red, depending on field health, or where that field is more green, as opposed to brown or yellow, if it's a drowned out spot, or if it's a sandy area and that corn's not growing as fast. You can see those and then prioritize where you're going to go scout first, or where's a bad part of the field, so I'm going to go look at that. So they can take those field health images, and if a guy doesn't have the ability to make yield maps, if he can track the total number of bushels, pounds of grain that came off of that field, they will take that total number and redistribute that number of pounds of grain onto that field health map. And it's incredible the accuracy that they can recreate a harvest map using pounds over top of a field health imagery. So that's stuff that they're working on right now. It's incredible what they're doing. As far as the drones, we are actually running in our tech dev, those are the people that go in and from our breeder standpoint, when they are analyzing hybrids, to the point where our TDRs, tech dev, are doing all of their research. We're implementing a lot more drones here in Iowa this year, so we're looking at doing stand counts, even trying to figure out if we can reliably take disease ratings based off of drone imagery. So if we're going to do a field health image from the sky with a drone, particularly on things like Goss's wilt or northern crown leaf blight that are particularly higher up in the canopy and cause a lot of leaf death, if we can take field health images with a drone and accurately make a prediction on disease ratings for that hybrid. So those are things that are in the works right now, but it's a really exciting time. I think that a lot of those types of applications, we're going to see more benefits right now and more application and more payback on economics in the research field right now, where on the farmer side of it, farm economics are really difficult right now. So it's harder to show a farmer where he's going to make money off of these applications, where when it comes to research and development, the payoff is much quicker because we have a higher value product, as in seeds, than they do in just grain. So long answer, but there's a lot going on in that sector.
Yeah, very complete answer. That's pretty cool. And Andrew did respond too that it's his goal to use Climate Field View and wants to get certified in the future. So very, very cool on that. Nicole, this has been a really big treat. I mean, we've talked really, for those of you who joined later, we talked about work-life balance to start, and then got into some more of Nicole's story and into technical agronomy. I want to encourage all of you to make sure you are following Nicole on Twitter. I'll put that up on the screen right here. And Nicole, what else would you ask of those watching as far as how can they follow up with you, or where would you point them?
I would point towards Twitter, either at me, I think that's how you say it, or follow me, or even DM me. I love outreach. I've been going to schools lately and talking about genetics and how that ties into GMOs and how are they safe and any of that kind of stuff. So I love outreach and getting in touch with people. Just reach out to people in your community. When it comes to sales, I really encourage getting that ground level experience because it is so important. Even, an area business manager, somebody who's way up top, just to be able to understand the people that you're managing, what are they dealing with, and really having that first world experience with it. I'm a little biased because I came through retail, and also just have your expectations in place because I did not start off making very much money.
Well, not that you need anything more to do, because I know you've got a full plate, but you would have a fantastic show about agronomy. You know this stuff and you're really entertaining. So anyway, add it to your list of things to do. But thank you, Nicole, so much for being on the show. This is Nicole Stecklein. She's a technical agronomist for Monsanto, the Dekalb Asgrow brands in Northeast Iowa. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining AgGrad Live. Visit aggrad.com, that's AGGRAD, to join the community, create your profile, and learn more about careers in the agriculture industry.